Welcome to another episode. What are you reading? What are you writing? A weekly video podcast features creatives, writers, and readers when we come together to talk about books. I am your host, Karen E. Osborne, author of 4 novels and counting. I am so glad you're here. I think you're going to enjoy our next guest. So you're going to meet a really excellent writer today. Her name is Lucille Guarino, and she is a best-selling, award-winning author, and she has 2 books to talk to you about. Isn't that exciting? Hey, Lucille.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, Lucille so she's going to show you these beautiful books. So, one book came out last March 2024.
Yeah.
Look at this gorgeous book, Elizabeth's Mountain. As you can see, all the awards. She had to even cut down on some of them, couldn't show you all the awards on the cover. And it's also an Amazon bestseller. And then today is publication day with her newest book. And look at this, Lunch Tales, Sue Ellen. So she's going to talk to us about it.
All
So
right.
Elizabeth's Mountain, the genre is historical fiction and romance. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a multi-generational romance. It is American historical romance, and but it's historical and contemporary both.
Oh, so because it's multi-generational.
Exactly. So the grandmother's story obviously is the historic story, and then the granddaughter's story is the contemporary. Yeah.
Wow. So tell us the premise of the book. Tell us a little bit about it.
So this was really unusual. I mean, I have dreams a lot, and sometimes I remember them, and I think, gosh, that would make a great story. Well, this time I actually came through with it. I woke up from this dream, and I went right to my laptop, and I said, this could be something. So I started typing and going at it and keyboarding, and before you know it, I said, you know what? I think I have something here. So I kept going and going. And that's how Elizabeth's Mountain was born. The Originally, I was only going to do Elizabeth's story. It started out with just her story. And then I thought, how interesting it would be to show a parallel between her and her granddaughter, who her granddaughter is a lot like her. They both had very nurturing personalities. They both went into nursing. Although it was Elizabeth, it was early 1950s, and you couldn't go into nurse training unless you were single. You couldn't be married. I mean, there's all kinds of
Really?
yeah, yeah. You had to be single to go through nurses training school. But then her granddaughter, of course, is a nurse practitioner, so it's very different. But they both have that same desire to take
Mhm.
care of people, So they're very much alike. So basically, I wanted to show the parallel between the two as to their romantic relationships and how they met their significant others. So
Hmm.
I alternate the chapters. And so it's Elizabeth tells her story, and then Amanda, as Elizabeth is telling her story, Amanda is going through hers,
She's in the midst of it.
in the midst.
Yes.
So it's first person, present tense. It's happening for Amanda. It's happening as she's telling the story. It's happening. So you have the immediacy of going through it with her. Um, and she is very close with her grandmother. She actually lives with her grandmother. She left a bad relationship and moved in with her grandmother in a big sprawling farmhouse in Asheville, North Carolina.
Wow.
So yeah, so this was it would be taking place about 2023. So she
Mm,
moves in with her grandmother is 90. So it starts out with the grandmother telling her story at the age of 90.
mm,
It was her birthday and her family's all there. And that was the other thing. It was after the pandemic. And
mhm.
I think a lot of that was on my mind because I'm an old soul. And I love listen to old people's stories. I just, love it. It's history. But I have an aunt who was 90, and I had a very good friend, a neighbor who was in her 90s. I used to have tea with her, and they were on my mind because during the pandemic I couldn't see them.
Mm,
And I would talk to them on the phone, and they were so lonely, and it's just so sad. And I
mm.
think that was all on my mind. So that's what sparked Elizabeth Mountain.
Wow, that's what sparked the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so cool. I do have very interesting dreams. I have to see if will start a book. It's really cool. Um, so you've had wonderful success with this novel. This novel is done, just really, really well and well deserved. So but you kind of changed genre in a little bit. You went, right? You went to try something really different with Lunch Tales. And I wondered why you decided to abandon, you built up this following who just loves the book, and now you're sending them in a little bit different direction. And I wondered what your thinking was there.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about that. I'm not gonna lie. It's a risk, a little bit of a risk, but we have to take risks sometimes, I think, as writers. It's part of it. But with Elizabeth's Mountain, it was completely made up. I used my imagination throughout the whole thing. With Lunchtale Sue Ellen, um, it's a lot of it is personal for me.
Mm,
And so I had written this years ago. I had written a Lunch Tales story. It was just called Lunch Tales. That's it. And it was about four women working in a big law office in New Jersey, which I had. And that's where I got a lot of my ideas from. I met some very colorful people there, and
no doubt.
long-term friends. But the drama, oh, the drama, and all the things that went on were just fascinating, really, story worthy. So I wrote Lunch Tales years ago, and after I wrote it, I drafted it and I read it back. I thought, gosh, there's four women. Each of them has a different, circumstances that they're dealing with and struggles and whatnot and challenges. And I thought there were two of them that were the most interesting. And so I pulled them out of the story, and rewrote the whole thing. And I'm giving them each their own book, their own space, because they deserve it. They're really, especially Sue Ellen. And then the next one will be Lunch Tales Tegan, which very fascinating stories. So really, the genre isn't really different. It's still women's fiction
Mhm.
with romantic element for sure. I always have romance in there somewhere. But the difference is that with Lunch Tales, it's all contemporary. It's all
Yeah.
modern, and it's a linear story. It takes place, from the beginning to end, straight through. It's not like Elizabeth's Mountain where you're going back in time, and back and forth.
Yeah. So the second story, that's going to be the next book, is
Yes,
what you're
that one.
saying.
Yes, after Lunch Tales Llewellyn, Lunch Tales Tegan is already slated for January 22, I think, 2026.
Nice. Very,
Yeah.
very good. Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's,
writing a series, when you were writing the first one, you knew it was going to be a series.
no, I'm not a plotter or a planner in any way. I really write by the seat of my pants, the pantser writer. And Elizabeth's Mountain, I really just pantsied the whole way through it. But when I finished it, actually what happened was once I decided to do, the parallel stories between the grandmother and the granddaughter, I wrote each story kind of almost like a little novella. Elizabeth's story
Mm,
with Joe, and then Amanda with Jesse. So they were all own little story, and then I merged the two. So
mm,
honestly, that it worked is pretty miraculous. Because it's just like, I don't even know what I'm doing, but it worked. And
yeah.
I myself, when I read a book, I don't normally like to flip between chapters with different characters. So I
Mm.
knew that I had to be really careful and make it as smooth as possible, for people. So I did tag each chapter with their name. But my readers said that they found it very smooth, And they liked it because they saw the parallel. They would, how
Yeah.
the dating life of the grandmother was obviously very different than, present day Amanda. Completely different. I mean, Amanda is 34, whereas her grandmother, Elizabeth, was 21, much younger.
Yes. Yes, yes. The times have changed, right?
Yeah,
I was 21 when I got married,
was
and my
I?
children all got married in their 30s.
Yeah, yeah, very
Oh,
different.
very different. And I felt, I remember telling my grandson that we met at 20 and we got married at 20 and 21, and he looked at me and says, "Is that legal?"
I mean, it's even my husband and I look at each other like, "Well, are we crazy? You're such
Yes, we
kids.
were. Yes, we
We
were.
were. We're babies." But
So, so tell me what kind of woman Sue Ellen is. Tell me about her personality and what you really like about her.
yeah, she's a very different character from Amanda or Elizabeth. So that's where it's going to be very different for my readers. She's very different. She's a little snarky, and I mean she's a modern girl. She's very privileged. She's actually a trust fund daughter.
Mm,
And but now she's an attorney in this big firm. She's very rebellious, especially where her father is concerned, because her father was very controlling, and she just had developed this very rebellious personality. Her parents they fought all the time in front of their kids,
mm,
and then
mm.
eventually got divorced. But she saw this, grew up with this.
Yeah, it touches you.
Yeah, and so her relationships, her romantic relationships are not the best. She picks wild guys. So
Mm,
it starts out with her in a toxic, relationship, which she of her own doing. She picked
mm,
a great looking guy, but he's got the worst personality. Very narcissistic. But it starts out, she's on a roller coaster ride. That's how it starts. She's on a roller
mm,
coaster ride because he was a fanatic with roller coasters. He was obsessed with it. So it was his birthday, and she said, "Okay, I'll do this." But they're on this horrible, death-defying roller coaster ride, which is actually she only lives because this takes place in New Jersey. Lived like less than an hour from this roller coaster. It's like the fastest, in North America, and
mm,
so she's
mm.
on this ride. So that's how it starts. But basically, that's a foreboding of what her
A
life is.
metaphor for
Her
the.
next, the year is going to be like for her. A lot is going to
Mm,
happen. A lot happens.
yeah, wow. That
First, she
sounds
gets
cool.
first she gets out of the. She has to get out of this relationship, which she's already. Even in the beginning, she's already trying to get out of it. She's already working toward. Right now, it's his birthday. She's like, okay, it's his birthday. I'll appease him, but then I got to get out of this relationship. It's not doing any of us any good. And then she does meet someone who actually changes her thinking about romantic relationships. He could be the one, but then life throws her um, a, a tough challenge with a medical diagnosis. And boy, that's when it really takes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, wow. Okay. That sounds very, very cool. And so you have another one coming out. So are you writing on something new, even though you've got one out this year and one out next year?
Yeah,
Hmm.
actually, so Tegan's done. I'm really just putting on the final tweaks and getting it over to Black Rose writing, and off it goes. That one's pretty much ready. The one that I'm working on now, because Elizabeth Mountain did so well, really beyond my expectations. I've been asked, can you do a sequel? And I had not planned on one. So I didn't plot it or plan it, when I was writing it, like how I could get them all back there, readers back there. So once people were started asking, "Oh, are you going to have a sequel?" And I thought, "Oh, maybe I should really think about this." So it took me a couple of months of like, how do I get everybody back there? Elizabeth is 90, So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, ah. So I did. One day it just clicked. Light bulb went off, and I said, I know how to get people back
There's
there.
the answer.
Unfortunately, my story takes place in the present. This the sequel. I have a
Mhm.
working title for it right now, so I won't say what it is yet because I'm not sure if that'll be it.
Mhm.
But it takes place in the present, and then Hurricane Helene hit, as you know,
Oh,
and really
wow.
devastated Asheville. So now I have to take a hard turn in my story because
Yeah.
that's been a challenge. And so I have some people that I'm interviewing in Asheville. I have some
Mhm.
connections, people that are living through it, that live there, who have been helping me. Oof. It's really
Yeah, wow.
heartbreaking,
That sounds powerful, though. That sounds like, wow.
very heartbreaking.
So, when you think about your own writing, your writing style, your writing interest, all of that, were there any authors that kind of helped shape you or inspired you or had a big impact on who you are today as a writer?
Yeah, I mean, I I like to read just about anything. I do favor family sagas,
Like
emotion
me.
heavy, yeah, emotion heavy stories. And that's how what I write because that's what I like to read. But I do change it up. Um, but my favorite author of all time, still to this day, is Pat Conroy. Um,
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I mean, when I read his books, I'm just like, wow. I have to go back sometimes and read his sentences because they're just so amazingly beautiful. They're very lyrical.
They
Um,
are.
um,
And
you
your
know,
images, you could see, like you just saying his name, images came up from his books. He writes descriptions so powerfully and but crisply. It's not too much. It's not, yeah, he's a wonderful writer.
the lyrical so I read his books for the lyrical prose, really. It's just amazing to me. I don't always like all of his stories. Like some of them I like more than others, like Prince
Mhm.
of Tide is my probably number one favorite. But just the way he writes, I'm just wow, I'm mesmerized. And I also like Ann Patchett. I like her writing style too because she's very smooth, just very smooth, and it's effortless to read her stuff. You don't have to
Mhm.
think about it, think too hard about it. It's easy to, and smooth. I like hers too. So there are authors that inspired me for sure. But I also like to step out of my comfort zone once in a while and read
Yeah.
things that, like, just recently I read a book by Lena Gibson. Is it?
Gibson?
Yes, which believe me, I do not like I guess dystopian or apocalyptic type stories. I'm not
Mhm.
really a fan of that, I'll be honest with you, but I stepped out of my comfort zone. I read her book Aftermath and I was, wow, this is really good. But that's because it had a romantic, hopeful element in it, which is important to me, and I loved it. I loved it. So I will try different things for sure. The only thing I might hesitate is horror.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might hesitate with horror. It's not for me.
I'm with you. I'm with you there. And I would say doing this show, um, I've stepped out of my comfort zone because I've read so many books by so many different kinds of authors, mystical, what was that called?
Paranormal, yeah.
Yeah,
Fantasy.
just things that I wouldn't normally go pick up and read, but then I read it and I go, wow, this is really good storytelling.
Yes.
Because I'm more of a thriller. I'm thriller and romance. Those are my two
Yeah.
go-to books that I like to read. But now I read all kinds of books and memoirs, and
Mhm.
so this
Yes.
has been wonderful meeting so many wonderful
Yes.
authors and try different things. So, is there something you've read recently that you could recommend to our audience?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, Aftermath was excellent. I've been reading a lot, between reading and writing. Oof, it's nonstop. I haven't watched television. Do you know I haven't watched television in 3 years? Unless
No
it's something
time.
specific that I need to see. The other day I tried to put the television on. I forgot how to use the remote. I said to my husband, "How do I do this again?"
That is funny, Lucille. That is funny.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, yes. So yeah, I liked Aftermath. The Butterfly Cafe I read.
That was
Um,
good.
yeah, yeah, that was really good. I've read so many. So many of the Black Rose writing authors. Wonderful storytelling, really.
Yeah. Yes. Well, this has been such a pleasure. This has been so much fun speaking to you. I know that everybody is really interested in being able to follow you, and especially with the tease of all these books coming up. So, how can they find you?
Easily on my website, just my name, lucilleguarino.com.
And you have
That's
all your social links on your
everything.
website.
Yeah, all the social links are on it, and I do update it pretty regularly, so it's pretty current, pretty much weekly.
That's good, though. That's very good. This is why you don't have time to watch TV.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. I hope that you will find Lucille, you'll follow her, you'll buy her books, you'll read them, you'll write reviews. We so appreciate it when you write reviews. And we'll send her a little note on her website and tell her that you met her here. What are you reading? What are you writing? Until next week, everybody. Have a great week. Bye bye.